Hey there, imagine a bright, sunny Saturday morning. The birds are chirping, the sky is blue, and I'm just sitting on my porch sipping a warm cup of coffee. My name's Jake. Hi, nice to meet you. I had just moved into this little neighborhood a few weeks ago. It's the kind of place with neat houses, green lawns, and friendly waves from people walking their dogs. I thought it'd be super peaceful, a nice spot to relax and enjoy life. Oh boy, was I wrong about that. Let me tell you about my neighbor across the street. Her name is Karen Miller. She's not just any neighbor, she's the boss of the HOA. That's the group that makes rules for the neighborhood, like how your house should look or what you can put in your yard. Karen acts like she's the queen of everything around here. Everyone knows who she is. You can spot her from a mile away, marching up and down the street with her clipboard in her hand. She's always yelling at someone about something silly, like how tall their grass is or what color their mailbox is painted. "Cut that grass," she'd shout, or "that mailbox is too bright." It's like she thinks she owns the whole place. Most people in the neighborhood don't pay much attention to her. They just roll their eyes when she starts barking orders. You know that look you give when someone being annoying but you don't want to fight about it. That's what they do. Me, I'm a pretty chill guy. When I moved in, I decided I'd just keep my head down and stay out of her way. I didn't want any trouble. I figured if I stayed quiet, Karen wouldn't bother me. But guess what? Karen had other ideas. She wasn't going to let me off that easy. It all started because of me being the new guy. See, I'd only been here a little while, and I guess that made me a target for her. New people probably seem like fresh meat to someone like Karen, someone she can boss around and scare a little. She didn't know me yet, and that was fine by me. I wasn't here to make waves or cause a fuss. I just wanted to enjoy my coffee, watch the birds, and maybe make a few friends. But Karen, she saw me sitting there minding my own business and decided I was her next big project. Now here, where things get fun, I've got a little secret. Nobody in this neighborhood, not Karen, not the nice old lady next door, not even the kids riding their bikes, nobody knew who I really was. I wasn't just some random guy who moved in with a truck full of boxes. Nope, I had something up my sleeve, something big. It was a secret that could flip Karen's perfect little world upside down and make her wish she'd never messed with me. But I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet. Oh no, that'd be too easy. You've got to stick around to find out. Are you curious? Good, because this story about to get wild. Let's paint the picture a little more. My house is small but cozy. It's got a little porch out front where I like to sit with my coffee. The yard's not fancy, just some grass and a couple of bushes, but it's mine and I like it. Across the street, Karen's house is the opposite. It's big and perfect, like something out of a magazine. Her grass is always cut just right, her flowers are in neat rows, and her mailbox. Oh, it's the exact shade of blue the HOA rules say it should be. She's proud of that house, you can tell. She's proud of being in charge, too. Every day she'd strut out her front door like a peacock showing off its feathers, ready to find something to complain about. The first time I saw her, I didn't think much of it. She was just a lady with a clipboard, walking fast and looking grumpy. I waved at her, to be nice. She didn't wave back. Instead, she squinted at me like I was some kind of bug she wanted to squash. I shrugged it off. Maybe she was having a bad day, I thought. But then I started hearing stories from the neighbors. "Watch out for Karen," they'd say. She'll fine you for breathing too loud if she can." They laughed when they said it, but I could tell they weren't totally joking. One guy, Mr. Thompson, lives 2 houses down. He's old and sweet, always feeding the squirrels in his yard. He told me Karen once made him pay $20 because his trash can was out 10 minutes past pickup time. 10 minutes, can you believe that? Another lady, Mrs. Garcia, said Karen yelled at her for planting daisies instead of roses. Daisies aren't classy enough, Karen told her. Mrs. Garcia just shook her head and kept her daisies anyway. That's how it was around here. Karen bossed everyone and they mostly ignored her. But me, I was new and I guess that made me different. That sunny Saturday morning, I was feeling good. The coffee was hot, the air was warm, and I didn't have a care in the world. I'd put up a little wooden gate at the end of my driveway a few days before. It wasn't a big deal, just something to keep my dog Buddy from running into the street. Buddy's a goofy little mutt who loves to chase squirrels, and I didn't want him getting hurt. The gate was plain and simple, nothing fancy. I thought it looked nice, and it did the job. But to Karen, that gate was like a red flag waving in front of a bull. She hated it the second she saw it. I didn't know it yet, but that gate was about to start a war. Not a real war with guns or anything, but a neighborhood war, one with yelling and rules and maybe even the police. Karen didn't come over right away. She waited, watching me from her perfect house across the street. I could almost feel her staring, like she was planning something. And she was. She was cooking up a big plan to make my life miserable, all because of that little gate. But here's the funny part. While she was plotting against me, I was sitting there with my secret, knowing I had something she'd never expect. Let me tell you a bit more about that morning. I was wearing my favorite old t-shirt and some comfy shorts. Buddy was napping by my feet, snoring like a tiny lawnmower. The street was quiet, except for a kid riding his bike a few houses down. It felt like the perfect day until Karen decided to ruin it. I didn't see her at first. I was too busy enjoying my coffee and thinking about what I'd do later. Maybe I'd mow the lawn, or maybe I'd just sit there all day. I hadn't decided yet. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw her. She was coming my way, clipboard in hand, her lips pressed tight like she'd just eaten a lemon. She didn't knock or say hi. Nope, she just marched right up to my porch and started talking. "That gate," she said, pointing at it like it was a monster. "It's against the rules." I blinked at her, surprised. "What rules?" I asked. I didn't know about any rules. I hadn't even read the HOA papers yet. They were still in a box somewhere. But Karen didn't care. "It's ugly," she snapped. "And it's not allowed. You need to take it down or I'll make you sorry." Her voice was loud and her face was getting red. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there holding my coffee thinking, who is this lady and why does she care so much about my gate? I could have argued with her. I could have said, "It's my house, my gate, leave me alone." But I didn't. I just smiled and said, "Okay, I'll look into it." That made her pause. She wasn't expecting me to be nice, I guess. She huffed, turned around, and stomped back to her house. I watched her go, still sipping my coffee. She thought she'd won that round. She thought I was scared of her. But here's the thing, she didn't know what I knew. She didn't know who I really was, and that secret. It was going to change everything. So what do you think so far? Are you wondering what my secret is? Are you picturing Karen with her clipboard ready to take on the world? Stick with me because this story's just getting started. That gate was only the beginning. Karen had no idea what was coming her way, and neither did the rest of the neighborhood. It was going to be a day they'd never forget, and I was going to make sure of it. Ready for more? Let's keep going. Okay, let's talk about how this whole mess really kicked off. It all started with my driveway gate. I'm Jake, by the way, hi again. So a few days before all this craziness, I'd put up a little wooden gate at the end of my driveway. It wasn't anything big or fancy. Just some plain wood I nailed together to keep my dog Buddy from running off into the street. Buddy's a silly little dog who loves chasing squirrels, and I didn't want him to get lost or hit by a car. The gate was simple, nothing special, but it did the job. I thought it looked okay, maybe even nice. But to Karen, my neighbor across the street, that gate was like a giant problem she couldn't ignore. Karen's the boss of the HOA, like I told you before. That's the group that makes rules for the neighborhood. She thinks she's in charge of everything and everybody. To her, my little gate wasn't just a piece of wood. It was like I'd put up a huge, flashing sign that said, "I hate rules, I don't care what you think." That's not what I meant at all, but Karen didn't see it that way. She saw that gate and it made her mad, really mad. One afternoon, she came stomping over to my house, and let me tell you, she looked like she was ready to explode. Picture this, it's a sunny day, and I'm just sitting on my porch again, relaxing with Buddy. The air smells like fresh grass and everything's calm until Karen shows up. Her face was redder than a ripe tomato and her eyes were squinted up tight like she was staring at something awful. She marched right up to my yard, pointed at my gate with her finger and started yelling. "That gate's an eyesore," she shouted. She said it like my gate had insulted her or hurt her feelings personally. "It's ugly and it's against HOA rules. I'm reporting you right now." I was surprised. I didn't expect her to care so much about a little gate. I stayed calm though. I didn't want to fight. "Karen," I said nice and slow, "it's just a gate. What's the big deal?" I even smiled a little, hoping she'd chill out. But oh no, Karen wasn't going to calm down. She wouldn't even listen to me. Her face got even redder, if that's possible, and she pulled her phone out of her pocket real fast. She started muttering stuff under her breath, things like fines and lawsuits. She was acting like my gate was some huge crime, and she was the sheriff coming to arrest me. I could have argued with her. I could have stood up and said, "Hey, this is my house. I can put up a gate if I want." Maybe I could have told her to mind her own business, but I didn't do that. Nope, instead I just sat there, smiled some more, and nodded my head like I agreed with her. "Okay, Karen," I said softly. She stopped for a second, looking at me funny. I think she thought I was scared of her. She probably thought she'd won, that she'd made me nervous or something. She puffed up her chest a little like a proud bird and gave me this smug look, like she was saying, "That's right, you better listen to me." But here's the thing, I wasn't scared at all, not even a little bit. Truth is, I was already one step ahead of her and she didn't have a clue. See, I've got that secret I mentioned before. I'm not just some regular guy who moved into the neighborhood. There's more to me than Karen or anyone else knew. While she was yelling about my gate, I was sitting there, cool as can be, knowing something she didn't. My smile wasn't because I was afraid. It was because I knew this was just the start of something big. Karen thought she was in control, but she was wrong, so wrong. After she finished shouting, she turned around and stomped back to her house. Her shoes slapped the pavement hard, like she was trying to punish the ground for letting my gate exist. I watched her go, still sipping my coffee, with Buddy wagging his tail beside me. She probably thought she'd put me in my place. Maybe she was already planning how she'd tell everyone in the neighborhood about the troublemaker with the ugly gate. But what she didn't know was that I wasn't worried about her rules or her phone or her threats. I had something up my sleeve, something that'd make her wish she'd never started this fight. The next day, things got even worse. Karen didn't let it go. She started watching me all the time, like a hawk waiting to swoop down on a mouse. I'd look out my window and there she'd be standing on her porch staring at my gate with that grumpy face of hers. Sometimes she'd write stuff on her clipboard, shaking her head like she was solving a big mystery. I could tell she was cooking up a plan to get rid of my gate and maybe even get rid of me. She didn't like that I wasn't scared of her. Most people just said yes, Karen, and did what she wanted. But me, I wasn't playing her game, and that made her mad. Then she started talking to the neighbors about me. I heard from Mr. Thompson, the nice old guy down the street, that Karen was telling everyone my gate was ruining the neighborhood. She said it made the whole street look bad, like I was some kind of sloppy troublemaker. Mr. Thompson laughed when he told me, though. Don't worry about her, he said. She's all bark and no bite. But I wasn't so sure. Karen wasn't just barking, she was planning something. And I knew I had to be ready. So there I was, stuck in this little war with Karen over a gate. She thought she could boss me around, scare me with her rules, and make me tear it down. But every time she yelled or glared, I just smiled back. I wasn't going to let her win, not yet, because deep down I knew I had the upper hand. My secret was my power, and Karen didn't even know it existed. She thought she was the queen of the street, but soon she'd find out she wasn't as tough as she thought. What do you think Karen was going to do next? Can you guess what my secret might be? This was just the beginning, and the tension was building up fast. Karen had no idea what she'd started, but I did, and I was ready for whatever came next. Hey, let's keep this story rolling. So days went by after Karen first yelled at me about my gate. I'm Jake, remember? Things didn't get better with her, they got worse, way worse. Every single time I stepped outside my house, there she was, glaring at me from across the street. Her eyes were like little lasers, trying to burn holes right through me. She didn't just stop at staring, though. Oh no, Karen took it up a notch. She started leaving mean notes on my door, little pieces of paper with ugly words scribbled on them. One said, "Fix that gate or else." Another one told me, "You don't belong here." Can you believe that? I'd only been in the neighborhood a little while, and she was already acting like I was the worst guy ever. I didn't say anything back to her. I kept quiet. I didn't yell or leave notes of my own, but that doesn't mean I was doing nothing. Nope, I was busy watching her too. See, while Karen was stomping around being all bossy, I was paying attention. I noticed stuff about her. She wasn't just glaring at me, she was sneaking around the whole neighborhood. I'd see her peeking into people's yards, looking over fences, and scribbling things on that clipboard she always carried. Now, she acted like she was some big detective, solving crimes or catching rule breakers. She'd tiptoe around, thinking no one saw her, writing down who knows what. Maybe she was keeping a list of every tiny thing she didn't like: grass too long, a bike left out my gate, who knows. But here's the funny part. Karen thought she was the sneaky one, but I was the real detective here. Not her, me. I wasn't just some random guy with a wooden gate and a dog named Buddy. I had a secret, a big one, and I was watching her closer than she was watching me. She had no idea. Every time she glared or left a note, I just smiled to myself. I wasn't scared or mad. I was waiting for the right moment, because something was coming her way and it was going to be good. Let's talk about one night that really stuck out. It was dark outside and the stars were twinkling in the sky. I was inside my house looking out the window when I saw her again. Karen was snooping near my place again. She was creeping along the edge of my yard trying to be quiet. Her phone was in her hand, glowing bright, and she was whispering into it. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught a few words, calling the cops. My ears perked up. The cops, really, over my little gate. I almost laughed out loud right there in my living room. Buddy was sleeping on the floor and I didn't want to wake him, so I just chuckled quietly to myself. Oh, Karen, I thought, shaking my head. If only you knew what was coming. She thought she was so smart, whispering into her phone like she was about to win this big fight. She probably imagined the police showing up, lights flashing, ready to tell me off about my gate. In her head, she was the hero and I was the bad guy who'd finally get in trouble. But she didn't know the truth. The pieces of this puzzle were falling into place and her big plan was about to flop right in her face. I wasn't worried at all. I leaned back in my chair, still grinning because I knew something she didn't. My secret was like a hidden treasure, and it was going to surprise her big time. Let me tell you more about what I'd been noticing. Karen wasn't just mean to me, she was mean to everyone. I started talking to the neighbors a little and they had stories. Mr. Thompson, the old guy who feeds squirrels, said Karen once banged on his door because his trash can was still out after the truck came. He laughed about it, but I could tell it bugged him. Mrs. Garcia, the lady with the daisies, told me Karen left her a note, too. It said her flowers were wrong and she needed to plant something else. Everyone had a Karen story and they all ended the same way, her being loud and bossy, thinking she could scare people into doing what she wanted. But with me it was different. She didn't just leave notes or glare, she kept coming back. Every day it was something new. One morning I found another note taped to my gate. This one said, "Take this down or I'll make you." I just shook my head and tossed it in the trash. Another time, I caught her standing in the middle of the street, staring at my house with her arms crossed. She didn't even try to hide it. She wanted me to see her, to know she was watching. Most people would have gotten mad or nervous, but not me. I waved at her, nice and friendly, like nothing was wrong. That made her huff and stomp off, which only made me smile more. See, I wasn't idle. That means I wasn't just sitting around letting her win. While she was sneaking and writing notes, I was keeping my eyes open. I noticed how she'd check her phone a lot, like she was texting someone all the time. I saw how she'd talk to herself when she thought no one was around, muttering about rules and fines. She was so busy trying to catch me breaking her silly HOA rules that she didn't realize I was catching her, too. Every little thing she did was like a clue, and I was putting them together in my head. That night when she was whispering about the cops, I knew she was up to something bigger. She wasn't just going to leave notes forever, she was planning to make a move. Maybe she thought calling the police would scare me into tearing down my gate. Maybe she thought they'd show up and side with her, telling me I was wrong, but I wasn't worried, not one bit. I went to bed that night with Buddy snoring beside me, feeling calm as could be. Karen's big moment was coming, but it wasn't going to go the way she thought. The truth was creeping closer, and soon she'd see she wasn't the only one with a plan. So there I was in the middle of this quiet little war with Karen. She kept pushing, glaring, and threatening, but I stayed cool. I watched her sneak around, listened to her mumble, and let her think she was winning. Little by little, the story was building up to something huge. My secret was still safe, tucked away like a present waiting to be opened. Karen had no idea what was about to hit her, but I did, and that made all her glaring and note-leaving kind of funny to me. What do you think she was planning with that phone call? Can you guess what I was hiding? Hang on, because things were about to get even wilder. Police cars zoomed into the cul-de-sac with a loud screech. Their bright red and blue lights flashed like a wild dance party. Everyone in Pinewood Heights stopped what they were doing. Kids peeked out from behind curtains. Dogs barked like crazy. And there was Karen Baxter standing tall in her fancy HOA jacket, puffing up her chest like a big, proud peacock. She was sure she'd won. She pointed her finger straight at Jake Miller, ready to yell, "Arrest him! His driveway gate is ruining everything." But then, whoa, something totally bonkers happened. The cops didn't even look at Jake. Not one tiny glance. Instead, they marched right past him, their boots thumping on the pavement, and stopped at Karen's front door. Yep, you heard that right, Karen's house. One big, tough officer with a shiny badge stepped forward. His voice boomed like thunder. "Karen Baxter, we need to talk to you right now." Karen's eyes got huge, like two giant marbles. Her mouth fell open so wide you could have tossed a baseball in there. "What?" she shouted, her voice all shaky. "Emmy, no way, this isn't about me. This is about him and that ugly, stupid gate." She jabbed her finger at Jake again, her face getting all scrunched up like she'd just bitten a sour lemon. She was so mad, she stomped her foot like a little kid throwing a tantrum. But the cop, he didn't care about her yelling. He shook his head real slow, like he was tired of her nonsense. "Nope," he said, super calm. "This isn't about any gate, ma'am. This is about you. We've got 10 complaints about you this month. 10 people are saying you're too loud, waking up the whole street with your screaming. They say you're calling the cops with fake stories, wasting our time. Oh, and guess what else? Neighbors told us you've been sneaky with the HOA money, like taking it for yourself. That's a big no-no." The whole street went quiet. Dead quiet. You couldn't even hear a bird chirp or a leaf rustle. It was like the air itself was holding its breath. Karen's face started turning red, redder than a ripe tomato sitting in the sun. She blinked fast, like she couldn't believe her ears. "Complaints about me," she squeaked. "That's crazy. I'm the one who keeps this place perfect. I'm the good guy here." She waved her arms around, trying to look big and important, but nobody was buying it. Then out of nowhere, Jake stepped forward. Cool as a cucumber, he stood there with his hands in his pockets, a little smile on his face. He didn't say a word at first, just watched Karen squirm. All the neighbors turned to look at him. What was he up to? Why wasn't he scared? Karen glared at him, her eyes like lasers, but Jake didn't even flinch. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, holding it up high so everyone could see. "Karen," he said, nice and steady, "I've been recording you. Every single time you came over to yell at me about my gate, I hit record. All those mean words you said, I got 'em right here. Every time you banged on my door or called me names, I saved it. And guess what? I sent it all to the police." He tapped his phone with his finger like it was a magic wand. Turns out I'm not the only one who's tired of you bossing everyone around. Lots of people in this neighborhood had stuff to say about you too. The neighbors gasped so loud it sounded like a big gust of wind. Mrs. Carter from next door dropped her watering can. Little Timmy on his bike almost fell over. Even Jake's dog, Rusty, let out a big woof, like he knew something awesome was happening. Corinne's face went from red to purple like a grape about to pop. You recorded me," she yelled, her voice all high and squeaky. "That's not fair, you can't do that." "Oh, I can," Jake said, still smiling. "It's my yard, my phone, my rules. You've been picking on me for months," Corinne, screaming about my gate, telling me it's too tall or too blue or too shiny. But I wasn't just sitting there doing nothing. I was waiting for the right time to show everyone who you really are. The cop nodded at Jake like they were buddies. "We listened to those recordings," the officer said, "and we talked to other people too. Turns out, Corinne, you've been a big problem around here. People are sick of you making up rules and acting like the queen. And that HOA money, we checked the bank stuff. You've been sneaking cash to buy fancy stuff for yourself, like that big TV in your living room. That's stealing, and stealing's against the law." Corinne looked like she wanted to disappear. She opened her mouth to argue, but nothing came out, just a little whimper. The neighbors started whispering to each other. "She took our money," said old Mr. Jenkins, shaking his head. "I knew she was trouble," said Mrs. Lopez, crossing her arms. Kids giggled behind their hands, pointing at Corinne like she was the bad guy in a movie. Now Jake crossed his arms and leaned back against his shiny blue gate. "See, Corinne," he said, "you thought you could boss me around. You thought I'd just give up and take my gate down, but I'm not that guy. I've been watching you, waiting for you to slip up. And today's the day you got caught." The cop stepped closer to Corinne, pulling out a little notebook. "We've got enough here to take you down to the station," he said. "You've got some explaining to do." Corinne's hands started shaking. She looked around, hoping someone would help her, but nobody did. The neighbors just stared, their eyes wide, waiting to see what happened next. Corinne tried one last time. "This is a mistake," she cried. "Jake, the bad guy, arrest him." But the cop just sighed. "Nice try," he said, "but we know the truth now. Let's go." He pointed to the police car and Corinne's shoulders slumped. She'd been caught big time, and there was no wiggling out of it. Jake watched it all with that same little smile. He'd been quiet for so long, letting Corinne think she was winning. But now everyone knew the real story. The big, loud HOA queen wasn't so powerful after all. And Jake, he was the hero who'd been planning this all along. The cops grabbed Corinne by the arm and started walking her toward their flashing police car. She didn't go quietly, oh no. Her voice echoed down the street as she yelled, "This isn't fair, you're all